Okay, imagine this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, drinking coffee. You notice the coffee's good today. Not remarkable, just good. The way coffee sometimes is on a morning when nothing is happening. You check your phone, pay a bill, get annoyed at something on the internet. Just a regular Tuesday, except you're 437 years old. Not a vampire, not a robot, not some chosen one with a prophecy. Just a regular person having a regular morning. Because somewhere along the way, humanity figured out how to make death optional. Not aging, not disease. Death itself. You can still die if you choose to, but your body, left alone, it just keeps going. And before you say, obviously I'd want that, stick with me. Because nobody talks about what starts happening around year 300. Nobody talks about what forever actually does to a person from the inside. And nobody, and I mean nobody, talks about what it quietly takes away. By the end of this, I think your answer might surprise you. Okay, so first, this isn't science fiction. That's the scary part. Like, I'm not sitting here making things up. In 2023, researchers at Harvard reversed aging in mice. Not slowed it, reversed it. Old mice became biologically younger. Eyesight improved. Muscles regenerated. They reset the body's internal age clock, rolled it backwards. There's a company called Altos Labs, billions in funding, doing nothing but this, full time. And then there's Brian Johnson, tech billionaire, 48 years old, spending $2 million a year to have the body of an 18-year-old, which sounds completely insane until you find out his biomarkers are actually working. So now it just sounds expensive and mildly humiliating for the rest of us who are out here eating cereal for dinner, wondering why we're always tired. There are drugs entering human trials right now, designed to slow biological aging. Gene editing tools that can already snip out code linked to cell deterioration. These aren't fringe people. They publish in journals. They teach at MIT. They are completely serious. So the question isn't really if anymore. It's what actually happens when. Here's the first thing nobody warns you about. You think you'd finally do everything, learn every language, travel everywhere, build the life you always meant to build, become the person you kept saying you'd become, and maybe, for a while. But think about this. You're 25. You know you'll live forever. Do you start working on your dream today? Why would you? You've got centuries. Start next year, or next decade, or honestly, whenever. No rush. And here's the problem. Humans already procrastinate when life is short. We put things off when we have 70 years. 70. Some people can't reply to a text within 70 hours. Give us infinity. And I genuinely believe we would never start anything, ever, at all. Your bucket list doesn't get shorter. It becomes a warehouse, a massive room full of things you keep meaning to get to, and the door is always slightly open, and you walk past it every day, and you think, yeah, soon, for centuries. There's a philosopher named Heidegger, famously gloomy guy, brilliant though, who argued that knowing you're going to die is actually what makes you take your life seriously, not in a depressing way, in a get up and actually do something way. The deadline creates urgency. Urgency creates action. Action creates meaning. Remove the deadline, and urgency doesn't slowly fade. It collapses, like a building with no foundation, all at once. But this is the part I actually keep thinking about. Not the procrastination, not the science. Love. Because nobody talks about what immortality does to love. And it might be the most important thing in this entire video. Right now, every relationship you have has an invisible clock on it. Nobody likes thinking about that, but it's there. And part of what makes people genuinely precious is that they're not going to be here forever. Every friendship, every conversation that runs too late into the night, every ordinary morning with someone you care about, all of it exists inside a window. That window is what gives it weight. Now imagine that window just never closes. You get married at 30. Then comes year 50, year 100, year 200, year 400. Think about how much you've changed in the last 10 years alone. Your priorities, what you need, what breaks your heart, what makes you laugh, now versus then. Now multiply that by 40. Are you still the same person? Is your partner? At what point does a marriage stop being two people growing together and start being two strangers, quietly trapped inside 4 centuries of shared memories? Maybe marriage contracts become renewable subscriptions. Every 50 years you decide whether to continue. Congratulations on your 300-year anniversary. Actually, we broke up in 3987. Because forever sounds romantic until forever actually arrives. And then there's grief. Right now, grief is devastating. Because love is real. The weight of losing someone is exactly proportional to how much they mattered. But in a world where nobody ever truly leaves, does love have to carry that weight anymore? Does it have to burn as hard? You know how you care more about something the moment you realize you could lose it? That's not a flaw. That might be the whole engine. Take away the losing. And something in the caring changes too. Maybe forever doesn't make love bigger. Maybe it makes love lighter. But here's what I keep coming back to. Not the big civilizational stuff. Not the philosophy. Just you sitting somewhere right now watching this. What would you actually do with forever? Not the fantasy version. The real version. Hold that thought, because the next part changes the question completely. Your brain is not built for this. Right now, people forget the names of people they've known for years. They forget passwords they made up last Tuesday. They walk into a room, stop, and have absolutely no idea why. Which, just so you know, doesn't get better with age. Something to look forward to. Now try carrying 500 years of memories, 1,000, 10,000. What actually survives? Do you still remember your first heartbreak? Your childhood bedroom? The exact sound of someone's laugh who you haven't thought about in 200 years? Or does all of it slowly dissolve under the weight of everything that came after, like old writing on a wall that gets painted over until there's nothing left but a faint shape where something used to be? A philosopher named Derek Parfit spent his entire career on this question and landed somewhere uncomfortable. He said the self isn't one continuous thing. It's more like a chain, overlapping connections between who you were and who you are, and over enough time, that chain doesn't hold. Think of it like this. If you replace every single plank of a ship, one by one, until nothing original remains, is it still the same ship? Now do that with your entire personality, your values, your memories, your fears, your sense of humor, every century for 1,000 years. Are you still you? Or are you just a very long series of different people sharing a body and calling it one life? I don't know the answer, but it scares me more than death does. Now let's zoom out for a second, because what immortality does to society is somehow the part nobody is prepared for. Right now, generations replace each other. Old ideas make room for new ones. Power changes hands. Culture moves. That's not just how societies work. That's how they stay alive. But now, nobody leaves. Imagine every person from every era still sharing the same world. People from 2025, 1825, 1025, all in the same room, all certain they're right, all of them permanent. And job markets. Just imagine the job interviews. How much experience do you have? Around 300 years. References, a few. One of them is technically a historical figure now, but I can pull up the email chain if that helps. You're 23, fresh out of school, competing for an entry-level position against someone whose reference is Abraham Lincoln. Good luck with that, but here's the part that's actually terrifying. Immortality, in any realistic version, would not arrive equally. It would be expensive, it would be exclusive, and whoever gets it first gains an advantage over everyone else that compounds for centuries. The people who already hold most of the world's wealth and power, give them 500 more years. They don't just stay powerful. They become permanent. They shape the laws. They own the systems. They outlast every opponent, and they cannot be moved by time. Death, brutal as it is, has always been the great equalizer, the one thing that eventually cleared the chair. Remove it, and the chair becomes a throne, permanent, inherited by no one, just occupied forever. And then comes the problem nobody sees coming. The one that only shows up after you've done everything. Not some things, everything. You've climbed every mountain, mastered every skill, learned 17 languages, spent a full century on those, started 50 businesses, ended 50 businesses, watched every film, read every book, eaten at every restaurant worth eating at on 4 different continents. You have become, and I mean this sincerely, a walking encyclopedia with the attention span of someone who's had 800 years of group chats. And then one day, a question appears that no human being has ever had to face before. What do you do when there are no new experiences left? A philosopher named Bernard Williams wrote about a woman who stopped aging at 42. After hundreds of years, she chose to die. Not because life became painful, because it went flat. No arc, no sense that anything was building toward anything, just more. And you've felt a version of this already. That thing where you finally get something you badly wanted, and the excitement fades faster than you expected. That's not weakness. That's what the human brain does. It adapts to everything. Pleasure, success, luxury, even miracles. And immortality hands you more time than the human brain was ever designed to hold. Now, the other side, because the pro-immortality argument isn't nothing. What if immortality doesn't mean being the same person forever? What if it just means becoming different people, over and over, endlessly? A century as an artist, a century raising a family, a century by the ocean with no plan, a century studying something no one has studied yet. not one life stretched thin across infinity. Infinite lives lived one after another, and maybe as civilization expands, other planets, other stars, mysteries we haven't invented language for yet. Maybe infinite time meets infinite novelty. Maybe boredom isn't inevitable. Maybe meaning doesn't require death. Maybe it just requires caring. And maybe we can care forever. I think that's genuinely possible. But here's the thing I can't get past. Think about a movie that never ends. No credits, no final scene, just events happening forever. At first, exciting, then exhausting, then nothing. Because stories need endings, not because endings feel good, but because without one, there's no shape to what came before. No arc, no meaning, just things happening forever. And maybe life is the same. Maybe mortality isn't the enemy of a meaningful life. Maybe it's the frame, the thing that gives everything inside it its shape, its weight, its point. The reason a sunset moves you is because it's leaving as you watch it. The reason a song hits differently at the end is because you know it's about to stop. The reason certain conversations feel like something is because they won't happen exactly like that ever again. Remove the ending, and everything inside the frame slowly loses its edges. Remember the person we started with? 437 years old. Kitchen table, regular Tuesday. They noticed the coffee was good, not remarkable, just good. After 437 years, every mountain climbed, every language learned, every extraordinary thing experienced dozens of times over. The thing that still feels like something is a quiet morning, a cup of coffee, nothing happening. That's not a tragedy. That might be the whole answer. The ordinary moments were always the point. We just couldn't see it because we thought we had to earn them first. We thought the big things would feel biggest. They don't. The big things become ordinary. The ordinary things, the ones we keep walking past, keep meaning to appreciate later. Those are the ones that survive everything, even 437 years. So if someone handed you immortality right now, no aging, no disease, no deadline, no end, would you take it? And the version of you sitting at a table somewhere 400 years from now, would they still be glad you did? Nobody knows, but here's what I know. The fact that you're sitting here thinking about this means there's something in your life right now worth noticing before it becomes a memory, before it becomes a story, while it's still just a Tuesday and the coffee is still just good. Think about it. If something in this landed differently than you expected, drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you ended up. And if this is the kind of thing you want more of, you already know what to do.